In a mountain village, a traveler meets a beautiful woman at dusk. She is gentle. She is kind. And by morning, the villagers find only her footprints, leading away into the pines. This exact story was told in Korea. It was also told in China. And it was told, almost word for word, in Japan. The same creature. The same warning. Separated by seas and centuries. So here is the question this archive was open to answer. How did one ghost cross 3 borders? And why, when 3 nations painted the same fox on their walls, was none of them describing the same creature? Her one unmistakable feature is her tails. 9 of them. In Korea, the old records call her the Gumiho. In China, the annals speak of the Huli Jing. In Japan, folklore names her the Kitsune. For centuries, scholars assumed these were 3 faces of a single legend, carried along the same roads that moved silk, letters, and Buddhist scripture across the region. And at first, the evidence agrees. The oldest surviving mentions do not appear in 3 separate places at once. They seem to travel, following the trade routes east, the way a song is carried from mouth to mouth until every village believes it was born there.
But a shared name is not the same as a shared meaning. And this is where the 3 traditions quietly begin to disagree. Because if this were simply one story spreading outward, the fox should mean roughly the same thing everywhere. She does not. In fact, the closer you read, the more it looks less like one creature traveling, and more like 3 peoples each looking into the same darkness and seeing something different staring back.
Start with China, where the fox is oldest. In the earliest Chinese sources, the 9-tailed fox is not a monster at all. She appears in the Shanhaijing, the classic of mountains and seas, as an omen, a sign that a wise and prosperous reign has come. To see her was, at first, good fortune. But as dynasties rose and fell, the same fox was rewritten. Court historians began to blame her for the collapse of kingdoms, casting her as the seductress who whispers a good ruler into ruin. So what changed? Not the fox. The fear did. When a dynasty needed someone to blame for its own rot, the fox was already there, beautiful and convenient. That is the first clue. The fox does not act. She reflects. Now cross the border into Korea, and the temperature drops. The Korean Gumiho is rarely an omen and almost never a symbol of prosperity. She is hunger wearing a human face. In the folk tales collected across the peninsula, she takes the shape of a bride, a daughter, a woman alone on a road, and the danger is always intimate. She is the stranger you let into the house. Scholars who study these tales note something telling. The Gumiho most often threatens the family from the inside, at the exact moments a traditional society felt most anxious about who a new woman entering the household truly was. The monster, in other words, is shaped like a specific fear. And it is not the fox's fear. It is ours.
And then there is Japan, where the story does something neither of the others dared. It splits her in 2. By the time the fox reaches Japanese folklore as the Kitsune, she has become 2 beings at once. One is a trickster, a shapeshifter who deceives travelers with foxfire in the dark. But the other, the Zenko, is a sacred servant of the god Inari, a guardian who protects a shrine for 1,000 years and is honored, not hunted. The same creature, worshipped and feared, in the same country, at the same time. And that is the reversal that undoes the whole tidy theory. Because if this were one legend simply traveling east, it could not arrive in Japan and become its own opposite.
And history does not leave her nameless. In China, legend fused the 9-tailed fox with Daji, the concubine blamed for the fall of the Shang dynasty more than 3,000 years ago, said to have delighted in cruelty while an empire burned. Cross to Japan, and that same fox woman resurfaces as Tamamo-no-Mae, a court beauty accused of sickening an emperor from his own bedside before a diviner unmasked the fox beneath the silk. Different empires. Different centuries. The same accusation. That when power rots from the top, a beautiful woman with a fox's heart must be the reason. Notice what is happening. Each time a throne fell, the fox was waiting to take the blame. She was not the cause of the collapse. She was history's alibi for it.
And this had a cost that fell on the living. A story about a monster who wears a woman's face is also, quietly, a set of instructions about which women to fear. The widow. The outsider. The bride carried in from a distant village whose family no one in town had ever met. For centuries, the Gumiho was not only a bedtime fright. She was a warning pointed at real people, and the ones who paid for it, the ones watched and doubted and turned away at the door, were almost never foxes.
So we are left with a harder possibility. Maybe the fox did not carry a single meaning across 3 borders at all. Maybe what traveled was only the silhouette, the 9 tails, the beautiful woman at dusk, and each culture filled that empty outline with whatever it most needed to explain. China needed to explain why good kingdoms fall. Korea needed to explain the stranger at the family table. Japan needed to hold 2 truths at once, that the wild can both trick you and protect you. Same shape. 3 different wounds. And once you see that, you cannot unsee it. The fox stops being a monster in a story, and becomes something far more uncomfortable. This is what the records actually preserve. Not a monster. A mirror. Each culture took the same 9-tailed silhouette and filled it with what it feared most, and what it hoped for most. The fox did not truly cross 3 borders. The people did. They carried her with them, and let her change to match each new home, each new anxiety, each new god. When we ask what the Gumiho, the Huli Jing, and the Kitsune really were, we are not asking a question about foxes. We are asking 3 nations to confess, in the shape of a single animal, exactly what kept them awake at night.
And this is why she has never really left. When a modern film sets her loose again for a new audience, it is not reviving a dead superstition. It is doing exactly what those 3 cultures did centuries ago, taking the same ancient silhouette and pouring a new fear, and a new hope, into it. The fox survives because the mirror never breaks. We just keep bringing her new things to reflect. This has been the first entry in the Vermilion Index. 1 creature. 3 nations. 3 different reflections of the same darkness. If a single legend can hold this many faces, imagine what else is waiting, mislabeled, in the archive. Next, we open the record of the traveler who was ferried across a river he was never meant to cross. Until then, the lantern stays lit.